Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2 on this Missouri primaries eve. We are 2 days away from the August 4th primaries. On the right, John Hancock.
Top of the morning.
On the left, Michael Kelley.
Happy Sunday.
And I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, the rematch. St. Louis Congressman Wesley Bell and former Congresswoman Cori Bush go at it again in the Democratic primary Tuesday. The winner, a shoo-in to return to Washington. I interviewed them both this past week, and I can't wait to hear what John and Michael think. Also, the key county executive primaries, the Democrats in St. Louis County, the Republicans in St. Charles County. I interviewed all of those candidates too. Will John or Michael call those races right here today? We'll see. It's being said that Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe is on the ballot, even though he's not running for office. A couple of his signature issues, including the elimination of the state income tax, are on the line Tuesday. And then our quote of the week, reflective of one of the region's biggest issues, another St. Louis-born company moving out. Bye-bye, bread company. Before we get into Tuesday's primaries, there is the jaw-dropping news that the former St. Louis County Health Director, best known for repeatedly giving the middle finger to constituents in an angry huff at a county council meeting in 2021, Dr. Faisal Khan, has just been hired and praised by St. Louis Mayor Kara Spencer as the new health director for the city of St. Louis. After a contentious meeting on COVID mandates, Khan wrote a letter to the county council chair saying, quote, "I became surrounded by the crowd in close quarters where members of the crowd yelled at me, calling me obscene names after being physically assaulted, called racist slurs, and surrounded by an angry mob. I expressed my displeasure by using my middle finger toward an individual who had physically threatened me and called me racial slurs." He took his allegations to Network News. That was back in 2021. But both audio and video from the meeting, plus Khan's police escort and witness accounts, all showed that he was never physically touched. He was not verbally assaulted, suggesting that maybe he made up that part to excuse his middle finger pointing. He later resigned. The mayor praises her selection of Khan for the city job, saying, quote, "He is the right person at the right time. His proven leadership will help us make our community healthier and more resilient." Khan recently led Seattle's public health department, John and Michael. No mention of his troubled past anywhere in the mayor's announcement. His salary is $207,000. Your thoughts?
Well, he's quite gifted at digital communication, Andy. I mean, this is ridiculous. He's disgraced. He went to the national media, made allegations making St. Louis look terrible. And it was all made up. It was all false. And he goes to Seattle, and, think of all the good people we brought in from Seattle in the city of St. Louis over there, the school superintendent and all of her cronies. This is inexplicable to me.
Yeah.
Is there room for second chances here in St. Louis?
I guess there's room for second chances on a lot of things, but it's like St. Louis is a giant game of Go Fish, where we just take the cards, throw them back in, remix them up, and see what we get. And if the same ones come back out, so be it. I don't. Maybe nobody wants to move to St. Louis to do these jobs. That could be also something to consider. This is a really poor decision.
Who's
on the mayor's part.
Who's advising the mayor on this?
Well, maybe she wants to give people the middle finger.
Should she at least be more upfront in saying, acknowledge the past and saying, hey, he's worked past it, we're going to work past it. I don't know, whatever, but there's no mention of it anywhere in this announcement, just that he's the right man at the right time.
Hope we don't have a stint of bird flu.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe go to one of these resume websites and see who else might be interested. I have a hard time believing that the pool was so limited that she had to go get somebody who'd already been run out of St. Louis County.
This is like the St. Louis County veterinarian that was allergic to dogs. Remember that one?
Well, let's go to the primaries now. 2 years ago, in a tirade after her defeat in the Democratic primary, former St. Louis Congresswoman Cori Bush told her opponent Wesley Bell, along with his pro-Israel and corporate donors, quote, "I'm coming after you," end quote. Well, here we are.
Our, once again, past and future Congresswoman Cori Bush.
As promised, Bush, the former two-term Congresswoman, has run a spirited challenge to reclaim the seat, hitting Bell on the slow-paced federal response to the deadly May 16, 2025 tornado that ravaged St. Louis.
When we needed him to actually deliver for disaster recovery funding, when we needed him to stand up against Trump's deportation regime, when we needed him to call for the end of wars and genocide overseas. Instead, we feel the absence of a person in DC actually representing us.
We've gotten over $200 million and counting allocated to the St. Louis region thus far. Now, it's not enough, but the fact that we're looking at some of our friends in other states who got zero, we know that there's more work to do. At the end of the day, we want to see a durable and lasting peace for everyone in the Middle East. That includes folks in Gaza, that includes folks in Israel. But my priority is the leading killer of young people in St. Louis is gun violence.
He also fires back on Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway investigating allegations that money Bush raised for tornado relief was somehow steered into her re-election campaign, which she denies.
Every campaign in the history of this country, from president down to school board, raises money to get their messaging out. That's one thing. But what she is doing is taking money and putting it into her own pockets. And that is a disqualifier, in my opinion.
We raised barely over $3,200. One transaction alone, a lot of that money went to a hardware store to get supplies.
There's no there there.
There's no there. So when you have to go look in the trash can for things, what are you going to find? You're going to find trash. So instead of trying to see how do we make sure that the people of St. Louis have the right information about both candidates, they would rather try to make up things about me.
Finally, there is a sharp contrast in their views on how to breathe new life into St. Louis, which to the rest of the world seems to be dying.
This region has been dying a slow death. We've been losing population. We've been losing industry and jobs. And it's time that we awaken this sleeping giant that we call St. Louis. We have a huge defense footprint. We have a huge healthcare footprint. We have a huge startup footprint. We have the pieces right here to be a major metropolitan area, but we got to invest in the infrastructure to get that done.
I do not believe that if we take care of those that have everything, that something will trickle down to the rest of us. No, we build our communities from the ground up. And so I'm going to work to make sure that we impact every single person, because that person will impact their family, that family will impact that community will impact St. Louis.
Bell beat Bush in 2024 by a margin of 5.5%, less than 7,000 votes. Thoughts on what you heard in the report on how this race is going to turn out, Michael?
I think Cori Bush was right. When you have to go back to the trash bin to find something, it's probably not right. The voters of St. Louis have already sent her to the trash bin. And here we go with this game of Go Fish where we pull out the reheated meat. I don't see much different. I think Wesley Bell's been an effective congressman running a good campaign. And I think the voters of St. Louis are going to say that Cori Bush's 15 minutes are up.
John?
I think you're right, but I can't ignore the fact that all over the country, not regionally, not St. Louis, all over the country this cycle, Democrat primaries, these socialist, progressive, extreme candidates have been winning. Now, Bell's got the money advantage. He's got a good record to run on. Is that going to be enough? I think so, but I won't be shocked if the other occurs.
She does have the backing of the Democratic Socialist Movement. On we march to another huge Democratic primary race, the campaign for St. Louis County Executive. Here are the top two contenders, State Senator Brian Williams of North County and St. Louis County Assessor Jake Zimmerman.
To ensure that the largest county in the state feels like it's growing, look like it's safe, and most importantly, have leadership within me that talks about it and sells it to the world. And I believe our region and our county is going to become a destination if voters consider me and elect me as their county executive.
This is serious business. $80 million budget deficit, politicians screaming at each other, a region that's hurting, prices through the roof. This is deadly serious stuff. Do you need one more politician who takes themselves that seriously? That's what got us into this mess. But if a wonky nerd might just be what we need to solve this mess and get back to business, then I hope folks will think seriously about me.
Zimmerman has campaigned as a nerd who knows his business, while Williams sees himself as a progressive visionary who has delivered for St. Louis County while working in an often hostile Republican-controlled state legislature in Jefferson City. Who's run the more effective campaign? Who do you see emerging to take on the Republican nominee, likely to be County Council member Dennis Hancock?
So the two, Zimmerman and Williams, I think they're going to be very, very tight in this election. I would have told you 6 months ago I thought Brian Williams was going to walk away with this thing. I no longer feel like that. I do think it's going to be close. It may come down to the third candidate, the spoiler candidate, Angela Walton Mosley.
Right.
She's not spent a nickel on this thing, or barely. But she has a constituency in Brian Williams' geographic base in North County. If she whittles enough of that, then I think Zimmerman wins. If she doesn't show up on election day, then I think Williams probably takes it.
Michael.
So I've done some fundraising work for Brian Williams in this campaign. You asked who ran the most effective campaign? I don't know. We're not really having a conversation about St. Louis County. We're talking about abortion and all this other stuff that really has nothing to do with running with the government. I'm kind of sick of the Jake Zimmerman shtick of, I'm a nerd. I want to hear solutions. Therefore, I think Brian probably is the most likely to win this race, but it really is going to come down to turnout. I really think this is a close race.
Up next on Hancock and Kelley, we jump into the Republican primaries and the huge three-way race for St. Charles County Executive. Ailman, Eigel, and Law. Oh my.
To hear more, listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelley.
Time to go inside the most heated campaign on the Republican side 2 days before the Missouri August 4th primaries. The race for St. Charles County Executive, 19-year incumbent Steve Ailman, who announced he would not run only to change his mind, faces former State Senator Bill Eigel and former Lake St. Louis Mayor Jason Law, a high-ranking member of the St. Louis County Police Department. The first issue we take up, taxes.
I'm not talking about raising other revenues elsewhere. I'm talking about cutting the tax burden, which has completely gotten out of control. And my intention is to make St. Charles County the first county in Missouri to not have to pay personal property tax.
I think if you look at the park tax, it's a 1% use tax. It was put in 20 years ago to start a more robust park system in St. Charles County. And they've done well, but now that's ballooned to $70 million a year. Divert that to personal property tax and try to lower the personal property tax for the people in St. Charles County. Go through budgets, have an audit.
We can show that over a 19-year period, the amount of money that we have spent per person in St. Charles County over the entire period has only gone up 2.7%. You're going to say, well, listen, you said you never raised taxes. We didn't. You know how we got the extra 2.7%? The sales tax on out-of-state purchases.
Another key issue, the spread of new apartment buildings.
For example, in Lake St. Louis, they just put a massive amount next to our grade school, Green Tree Elementary. And all of a sudden, they started filling up with more and more kids. And then guess what happens there? They got to build more schools. They go out for bond issues, which raises our taxes.
During the 19 years that I've been in this office, we have approved one apartment complex. We cannot affect what the cities do except to bribe them with our transportation funds, which I will not do.
The county's capable of putting a little bit of pressure on these cities that are building all these apartment complexes by leveraging some of the road dollars and other funds that the cities need to get from the county. I'm willing to do that, but unfortunately our current county executive is not willing to do that.
Steve, wake up.
And then there's Jason Law's use of AI campaign ads. One shows characters who look like him and his opponents in a scene that never happened.
That's the biggest difference I see in my first election to this, which will be my last. And that is people just lie.
The only thing I liked about it is that I didn't have any gray hair. So the things he was having my avatar say were very dishonest.
I just wanted to see something that's more catchy. And yeah, we were the first to bring it to Missouri in a political ad, but it's not going to be the last.
And you consider it fair game?
I consider it fair game.
If folks want to see a slowdown and stopping of the urbanization of our county, if folks want to have a protector when it comes to saying no to these data centers, I'd love to continue serving.
This region has lost how many Fortune 500 companies? How long does it take to where the region says, we got to do better? And I want to lead that charge.
We need to make sure that we have the infrastructure. People can get home in the evening from their job at a decent time, to spend more time with their family. If people will give me a chance, I'd love the opportunity.
Anybody stand out to you there?
Not particularly. This has been a pretty nasty campaign back and forth, and you know, it's going to be extremely fascinating to see which branch of the Republican Party emerges here.
But you can't call it. You're not leaning one way or the other.
No, I mean, so there's going to be a certain amount of anti-incumbency votes out there.
Right.
I think Law probably gets those over Eigel. Eigel's going to get the populist MAGA people. He's always had them. He'll always have them. And so, you know, we'll see how this plays out. I expect this one will be very close as well.
Michael?
Strangely enough, I think this may be the most important election that's going to be happening in the region.
Yeah.
In St. Charles, it doesn't usually take that spotlight. This Bill Eigel, I mean, he's run for everything. Is this guy who considers himself to be an outsider? He's the ultimate insider in running for jobs. So he's always looking for a taxpayer job. Jason Law was quite disappointing to me with this whole AI stuff. Steve Ellman, I think, has a record of showing that, hey, he's the one stable touch point of the St. Louis area over the last several years, and I would not even dare try to predict what's going to happen with Republicans.
One thing I would note that I find interesting is that the early voting turnout in St. Charles this cycle is about twice as much as it was 2 years ago when we had a governor primary.
Right.
So as the electorate expands, I think that hurts Bill Eigel the most.
Still to come, he's not running, but is Missouri's governor really on the ballot Tuesday? And our quote of the week from another former St. Louis company. Republican Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe is not running for office this go-round, but pundits look at Tuesday's primaries as a possible referendum on his first year and a half in office. He's campaigned in favor of Amendments 4 and 5, especially 5, the proposal to enact one of his signature issues, the elimination of the state income tax.
The average Missouri family would get $3,000 a year back into their pocket. That's money you can use for a vacation, for education, for some repairs around your home. Missourians can spend their money better than any government entity can.
He says he's paying close attention to the county executive races in St. Charles and St. Louis counties as well. Is this a Kehoe referendum, any of it, on Tuesday?
Well, I mean, it's not going to go well for him. I think both of those amendments are going to lose, and that's another L for him. He has a lot of those in his first 18 months. I think Mike Kehoe needs a reset moment. He had a lot of promise, and he's not delivering on much.
Yeah, look, he is committed to reducing taxes on Missourians, and whether 5 passes or fails, he's going to continue in that objective.
Now our quote of the week, a St. Louis area staple, Panera Bread, a.k.a. the St. Louis Bread Company, moving its headquarters out of Fenton in St. Louis County. A company memo obtained by Fox 2 says Panera will move to a new HQ near Boston, Mass. a year from now. Panera has more than 600 workers here. That's in the corporate offices, not the restaurants included. Panera Bread was founded in Kirkwood in 1987 as St. Louis Bread Company. The company was sold in '93 and the name changed to Panera in '97, but the St. Louis area stores kept that St. Louis Bread Company name. Our quote is from Panera's CEO, quote, "Our new workspace will allow us to align our teams against the strategic pillars of Panera as we continue our transformation," end quote. Blah, 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 blah.
Well, and
corporate speak, what does it mean?
Well, and the band played on. The hits keep coming at us here in St. Louis, and I don't know. I think this is just yet another bad sign in what is a bad trajectory for the entire region.
John?
Thank goodness we had them when the bread was fresh. The quality's not what it once was. Good riddance to Boston. The CEO's from Boston. That's why they're making this move.
And it hasn't been owned by the
Local
founders for quite some time.
Right.
Right.
But they still had a footprint here.
Yeah.
And I would think this will hurt business in St. Louis big time from consumers that used to go to Bread Company.
We just keep taking it, man.
I think there's a lot of consumers that used to go to Bread Company.
Final thoughts are next. First, Drone Fox over Fair St. Clair, at least the lead up to Fair St. Clair. The St. Clair County Fair returns to Belleville after a 12-year hiatus. Final thoughts, Michael Kelley?
Yeah, we've been hitting the drum time and time again. If you want to participate in the elections that matter, it's happening next week. If you're in St. Charles, vote in the Republican primary. That's who's going to be in charge. If you're in St. Louis, vote in the Democratic primary. That's who's going to win. That's who'll be in charge.
John.
I walked into the polls the other day, early voting, walked in, gave them my driver's license, filled out my bubbles, put my thing in and out in 5 minutes. Tomorrow is still early voting in St. Louis County and St. Charles County, across the region. This is a great thing.
That's it for Hancock and Kelley. Remember, if it's Sunday in St. Louis, it's Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, 8:30. It re-airs tonight at 7:30 on St. Louis 11. We'll see you next week. We left a good one.